Hi, everyone, and welcome to Foodie Live. And thank you for joining us for our brunch edition with Chef Neil Doherty. My name is Sharon Armichout, and I will be your host for today. We'll be showcasing 3 recipes today: the charcuterie board, Southern Belle Bloody Mary drink, and cheesy grits with pulled pork. These items are in our new Foodie Solutions Brunch Toolkit. Over the next couple of months, we have several holidays that typically go together with brunches. We have Mother's Day, Easter, Father's Day, graduations, and so many more. This toolkit has many fun brunch ideas, take-home action stations, marketing kits, beverage recipes, and so much more. This is just one of the 3 that we have just recently rolled out. So let's take a look at all 3 of the new toolkits that we have. Okay, let's get started. Now let's give a little background on Chef Neil. He is originally from a quaint farming community in Ireland. So he's worked in Ireland, England, New York City, Massachusetts, and Houston. And at Sysco, Chef Neil has consulted with and influenced restaurants, brands, big and small, locally and internationally. To stay current on trends, techniques, and flavors, Chef works with many other chefs from around the globe. Welcome, Chef. We're excited to have you with us today and look forward to talking about the 3 recipes today. So tell us about them.
So hi Sharon, how are you? Yes, so the first one we're going to be doing today is a charcuterie. And actually Sharon, tell us the story on that one. That's pretty funny.
It is kind of funny. So about a month ago, we were working together on the content for the Foodie Solutions Brunch Toolkit. And I was asking you about smoked salmon in place of meats on a charcuterie board, and you told me it was called charcuterie. And I thought you were joking. And so you told me to Google it, and sure enough, it's a real thing. So tell us about it.
So charcuterie, so the whole cooterie, kind of right pre-pandemic, it started showing up over the last couple of years in a lot of the kind of microbreweries and really on-trend restaurants at the time. There was a lot of charcuterie and sharing boards. And then all of a sudden, we started to see seacouterie showing up. And the same kind of concept, using cured and smoked seafood in place of your usual, salamis, dry sausages, etc. And then we've even seen, just to go one step further, we've actually seen really cool plays on veg-couterie, where different applications of grilling, smoking, pureeing, etc. of vegetables for the same kind of shareable. So it's really quite trendy. So today we're going to be talking about charcuterie, and I'm actually going to do a sharing board because a lot of places are going to start reopening. And I know if you've got a table of 4 at brunch and you're all together and are eating without masks, then I think that you can probably get away with a shareable charcuterie board, or doing it for 2 at a time. A charcuterie or a charcuterie board for 1 looks a little dismal because, of course, you've got prices that you have to fall within, and you really can't do a lot. Whereas 2, you tend to be able to do a little bit more, and 4, definitely more. So we have a beautiful round board. Usually I like to serve these on a rectangular board because it just makes it look more, obviously, elongation. And then what we're going to be doing is using a variety of smoked, and of course, I'm a huge fan of oysters, and a charcuterie board without some Appalachian oysters would be a miss for me, but it doesn't mean you have to have them. Honestly, they don't just have to be served shucked, they could be actually grilled. Or you can come with a mignonette. I mean, there's so many ways that you can do them, but I just feel that they give a layer of freshness, seeing that we're using a lot of cured products around them. So we have our Sysco imperial smoked salmon. And as Sharon discussed, all of these recipes are available through the toolkit and also on SyscoFoodie.com. So we're going to start off with our smoked salmon, very traditional. But you noticed before the charcuterie kind of plays on them, you started, smoked salmon was very much a breakfast kind of item, or in the older brunches, it used to come served, or fine dining in the 80s, I'm aging myself there, it used to come with chopped egg whites, chopped yellow, capers, red onion, and pumpernickel toasts. So obviously, I like it this way. I come from Ireland. Smoked salmon is a big play where we're from. I used to work at a place called Paddy Burke's in Clarenbridge, County Galway, which was famous for oysters, but also famous for its smoked salmon platters. So,
how many items should a board typically have?
That's a great question. It all depends on your pricing structure. The beautiful thing about smoked fish and stuff, you have a shelf life to it. But it's a pricing structure, so I'm actually going to show a variety of items, but I'd say you've got to keep it in an uneven number, and I think you should have at least 5 items. Never give an even number because it never gets people to reorder. So always do an odd number, because if somebody else wanted an extra oyster or something, you can always add the price of an oyster.
There you go.
So we got our Sysco smoked salmon. I'll continue with our Sysco branded pastrami cured salmon. I love this. The flavor is different. Also really plays into the charcuterie style because it's got that beautiful crust on it. So we'll just work this one across the board. And really, there's no specific way that you have to decorate these boards. It's totally up to your artistic style, whatever you like and how you like to do it. I like to fold the salmon to kind of give it a little bit of height and not keep it flat.
Interesting. So when you are pairing all these items together for your board, what do you consider to be the best matched items? How do you figure out how you're going to match them up with the different other items?
Well, so what I'm doing, so the beautiful thing about charcuterie is it's a bit of a no-brainer, which is kind of good. Smoked seafood really goes really well together. We're putting down our duck trap smoked mussels right now, but really, these flavors all work really well together, and we're going to break them up a little bit with some other flavor profiles, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of tartness. So we kind of want to give a few other flavor profiles, but it's a great question, Sharon. Really, a lot of it's to do with your locale and what people like in seafood. So in certain parts of the country, you probably would have either smoked or grilled or cured shrimp. You could do a ceviche in here somewhere else. A place that's serving a lot of fish can actually make a really great fish mousse, a creamed fish mousse. People really like that with crackers and items like that. So really, it's the flavor profile of your locale, and then you can always introduce something outside of it. But that's how I would look at it. So we've got our smoked oysters. I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
So we got the smoked oysters on the board, and then I actually have some of this really, really great smoked trout. And once again, if you're talking about locale, smoked trout in the Midwest and in Idaho, etc., would be a great add-on to a board. And then a little nudge to the East Coast, we've added some mackerel. And I love mackerel because it's oily. Mostly the salmon's oily, the trout somewhat, but the mackerel very much more. And I love the skin. It's a great contrast on the board. And I actually went with a peppered here, a peppered mackerel, just because it really lends itself to that charcuterie feel, just like on a traditional board. You would have that kind of, the peppered salami or, something like that. Now, so we've got our seafood down. I'm going to add the oysters. Now, I have 4 of them here, so I totally contradicted myself about the odd number. But hey, we're just going to fly. I'm just going to go with the 3 of them. And lose that logo there. And so now we've got our main play on the seafood. Now, I am now going to add another element. I am going to add prosciutto. Because not everybody at the table might be a huge seafood fan. So by adding a couple of components that are not seafood, it allows everybody at the table, and that's the beautiful thing about brunch, isn't it? We share, and so this allows everybody to be involved in it.
What item are you using there?
This is a sliced prosciutto from European imports. I like this because it comes in a retail style packaging, which makes it really, you're not opening a lot of it at any one given time. Okay, so we have that. And then the next item is an absolutely beautiful truffled Romano from European imports. So that's my cheese element.
How many cheeses do you usually add to the board?
I am only adding one because this one here is, I'm focusing on the seafood.
So if you were doing a regular charcuterie board, you would have
multiple cheeses. Yeah, multiple cheeses. Because a traditional charcuterie board is more your cured meats and your cheeses. So it's kind of mixed up. So this one, so there we got our basic setup. Now I'm going to add for the cheese a little bit of honeycomb. I love honeycomb because of the style that it gives.
Now, do you add any additional sauces with the charcuterie?
You are just jumping ahead there, Sharon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. So the beautiful thing about honeycomb is it will go beautifully with the smoked salmon. All right, so yes, I do have sauces, Sharon. And I have a variety of condiments. So every charcuterie board comes usually with olives. So we have some cured olives. I've got a Kalamata and a green. And then for freshness, I mean, I love adding layers of freshness to it. I have cherry tomatoes, but you've noticed I sliced them in half. Do you know why? Have you ever had a cherry tomato at brunch and you bite into it and you fire seeds? Much better to cut them in half, allow the people to digest them without firing them, everybody. And then I also made, this morning, I made a mustard dill sauce, which goes phenomenally with all smoked fish. So it's nice. One sauce does all. And I know you're going to hit me in a minute. You discussed with me last time about bread. So here's bread. But I personally, when I'm doing a board, like to do crackers because
why would you like to do crackers versus the bread?
Yeah, I do crackers because if you notice, we don't really serve bread service in restaurants that much anymore, and people are really kind of carb, looking out of carbs, and people look at crackers less, roughly than they would look at a bread roll or sliced bread. But it's totally up to you. You can do lavash, you can do pita bread. These are absolutely wonderful sea salt crackers, once again from European imports. And they'll give me that crunch and that element that's a little bit different that I can work into my board. Don't want to cover that honeycomb totally. And then voila is a very, very kind of quick play on a charcuterie board.
I love the colors.
That's the beautiful thing about seafood. It's the smoked salmon is really, really great, but you've got the different colors with your reds and your olives and your sauce. And this is actually for a table of 4, and this is quite adequate. And it depends on your market what you can charge on it. But obviously, everybody that's watching, the mackerel and the trout is a lot less expensive than, let's say, the smoked salmon and pastrami. So that's why I kind of try to blend in some items. A smoked fish mousse, you can actually extend your smoked fish and make it more profitable. Even just topping it with a little bit of chopped roasted pistachio gives it a kind of a flair that, you know, says money. So really look at it that way. But the smoked mussels are pretty inexpensive. So it's just kind of really kind of weighing the cost of the ingredients and how you can place your board and be profitable, really, because that's the one big thing about brunch is profitable if it's priced right.
Now, one of the things I'd seen a chef utilize like a pizza box to create a charcuterie board to go. And I thought that was very interesting. What's your take on that?
I think that's a great idea because as long as your delivery driver is keeping it upright and it's got a liner on the bottom, I think it's a great way of shipping a charcuterie board. You know what I mean? Because that way it can be opened. But then again, if you just want to do it for two people, you would use a clamshell with a clear top, so that they're seeing the value. I mean, one thing that we've learned through COVID is it's all about presentation.
That's a great idea. So, you know, the toolkit also gives us several ideas on creating our own signature Bloody Marys. You know, we can add a lot
And that's exactly where we're going.
So we could add onion rings or garnishes. So tell us about this Southern Belle Bloody Mary that you want to talk about today.
Okay, so this, the first thing you do, measure your skewers and then cut them to size. You don't want a skewer that's too long, and you definitely don't want a skewer that's too short. This particular one, we're going to do a couple of different plays on. The Southern Belle actually is a Bloody Mary. We're adding shrimp for the Gulf Coast. I just made these little puppies, devil eggs. I mean, you have to have devil eggs in the South. But then again, don't forget, devil eggs is one of those comfort food items that, I mean, God, they were on every menu before the COVID. It was that whole Southern chicken style restaurants with devil eggs. So people are really kind of into them. I'm using beautiful long pieces of celery stalk so I'm using the centers because I love the visual. I'm using also, so let me just make so we can see it. I'm also using these beautiful little pimento cheese bites.
What is that?
So this is one of our CES items. It's a pimento cheese and spreaded and fried. So,
wow.
So if you think about the South, we've got the Bloody Mary, we've got the devil eggs, we've got the shrimp, we've got the bites. Now we have to do something to jazz those up. We've got, of course, a Bloody Mary without bacon. Not really happening, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So now there's a few tricks here. We're going to start off by filling up our Bloody Mary.
Nice.
Oh, I mean, and this is, just in case anybody's wondering, is a mocktail.
I was wondering.
So no alcohol in it. It's not that it's a little early, because Bloody Mary's on the airplane at 7 o'clock. I see it happen all the time up there when you're watching the first class people. But really, really, this is a mocktail, and mocktails were on the rise as far as a trend pre-COVID. And I think once we get back to some semblance of normality, I think mocktails will be back in the game again. So we've got that. So we might as well start with building our skewers, and then we'll finish with the bacon, etc. So I've got these two, and they're kind of brownish. So I'm going to add an element to them.
So is there any preference on how you skewer? Like with the color combination, or how do you?
Oh no, this is all about eating. If you think about it, this is the perfect bar food. You sit down at the bar, You have your Bloody Mary, and you can have a slider on top, you can have a crab cake on top, you can have multiple items. So technically, you're having a beverage and you're going to enjoy a snack pack on the top. So they've become, I mean, if you've noticed, like if Vegas, Miami, etc., these have become massive. They've got all kinds of accoutrements on them. So really, it's a great upsell at brunch. And to be quite honest, if you've got a lively bar scene, this is a great bar and grill item. And it can be build your own. You know, you could actually offer a menu. I know most the chefs out there that are watching kind of cringe because everybody likes to build it their way, but when it comes in on the dupe, it's a little rough, right? But you can actually offer some opportunities for people to customize because people really, really like to customize. Okay, so there's our first skewer. Okay.
Right.
We're going to come along now with, I mean, you can't have a Bloody Mary without a great piece of celery, right? But I like the fact that I'm still keeping the greenery on it and, you know, giving it that look that I need. Bacon.
Now, where are you going to put that deviled egg?
So look at that. You're so far ahead of me. I was thinking about that all night last night. So really I was. So I built myself a little devil egg platform.
Oh my
with
goodness.
celery. So that's why I use such a small piece to start with. And then of course I'm going to do my shrimp skewers, which really gives me my sovereign play. And I purposely went with a smaller count shrimp. Now I could put 2 massive shrimp on here, but by using a smaller count, I can make the skewer look a lot prettier. And it looks like I'm giving you more.
And you're putting them in, how are you skewering them? From which side?
I beg your pardon? Oh, so I'm sliding them in from the back to the front so that I get these beautiful little circles.
Okay.
Okay. And move that up just a tad. I am going to steal an olive from my charcuterie board. I just taught it out this because Bloody Mary and olives are very good together. I'm going to put that baby right there. So, and then we're going to finish it off with the deviled egg.
Nice.
And the deviled egg, like you said, how am I going to put that on there? But so that's a great play on a brunch item that can generate more income. And the beautiful thing about it is portable. So.
Very nice. Very nice. So what is your favorite Bloody Mary garnish?
I knew you were going to ask that. Actually, bacon wrapped shrimp. I love the shrimp en brochette on a skewer with this because I'm getting the bacon, I'm getting the shrimp, and I think shrimp goes phenomenally. Actually, seafood goes phenomenal with a Bloody Mary. Nice. I mean, really, really does a great job. So really, these two really, really accompany each other if you think about it.
That's true. That's very true.
And I do love deviled eggs.
So our next item that you're going to show us today is on cheesy grits with pulled pork. And so grits, tell us about grits.
Okay, so a lot of people think that grits could be a little polarizing and a little, overly southern, right? But grits have really taken off. They're actually showing up on menus around the world. Grits are inexpensive, but there's some great stories behind them. Now, at Sysco, we sell them in a couple of different ways. We have a boil-in-the-bag cheesy grits already that we partnered with JTM to make, which is a really great small application. We have a instant grits by Sysco that cooks really quick and you won't burn your eyebrows and everything else when it's popping and hitting the ceiling. Grits are just like polenta, right? It's all over you. And then we also have the artisan ones through European imports and supplies on the fly. And the artisan ones are those kind of stone ground, rough, coarse grits. So they have a little bit of more color in them and a little bit more imperfections than that you would see in a quick grits, if that makes sense. And I remember the first time I ever ate them, it was in, and I know you said that Virginia really isn't the South, but I don't believe that.
It is in the South.
My first vacation was in Virginia Beach in 1984, and it was the first time I'd ever seen grits served at breakfast. So I knew I was in the South, because it was definitely not being served in Boston or New York or New Jersey, right? And I really loved them. I mean, it had that little knob of butter, the black pepper over the top, and I just fell in love with them. So when I came back up north, I actually incorporated them into my menu, and I used to actually make a grit cake with the leftovers. So I take the leftover grits, fold in whatever I had. If I had prosciutto left over, if I had some tasso, if I had some crawfish, if I green onions, etc., fold them in, lay them out in a sheet pan, cut them out, and bread them and fry them, and use them as a base for a play on a Benedict. So it'd be a grit kind of play on a Southern Benedict. So
nice.
Yeah, so it doesn't harm you to make a bigger amount. I'm actually using a cheesy grit, which with the I felt just like Julia Child there for a moment. The beauty of TV when I just pulled it out and the grits are ready to go. So I'm not going to be peeling any of this off the ceiling. All right, so I've got my cheesy grits. And I've got my plate over here. And I have actually added black pepper. I put white cheddar, a little bit of yellow cheddar, and a little Parmesan. I want a lot of cheesiness in this.
So you're plating that as your base.
I beg your pardon?
You're plating that as your base?
Yeah, this is, well, if you've ever had shrimp and grits, it is the base. This is the beautiful creaminess, the cheesiness, the carbohydrates. Definitely not on the keto diet, this one. All right, and then what I have, I'm going to, once again, staying in that brunch where you're adding both, seafood, etc. What you're doing in brunch is really about a little bit of luxury done in a way that you recognize. So this is my pulled pork.
So tell us about some pulled pork. I mean, is that something that is a trend, or is it just in like the Carolinas?
No, pulled pork is at a resurgence, if you really want to think about it. It was always big in Carolina and Alabama and those areas. But now it's served pretty much nationwide when you think about barbecue, pulled pork sandwiches, that kind of whole Guy Fieri roadshow kind of feel where you're showing people making these kind of comfort food items that make you feel very comfortable about eating it. It's let me make sure I start that thing. So it's a comfort food, and the price is right. Pork, to either do it yourself or to purchase it already smoked, is the right price. It is an item that you can make good profit from.
So, when I think of pulled pork too, I think of the variety of different sauces that can be used with pulled pork. The vinegar base, tomato base. I mean, there's just
and that's something. You're right. So this dish can be done any way that you like, and I'm going to prove a point to that. It can be flavored any way that you want for your location. So this cheesy grits could be a local cheese in your grits. So you're using a stone ground artisan grit, and then you're using a local cheese. You're using a local sauce on your pork. So now what you're doing is you're really localizing your menu.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what it takes. It just takes using a couple of items. And so I'm going to use, because it's brunch, I'm going to use a little bit of Bloody Mary. I already have a little barbecue in there. So I figure I'll use a little bit of Bloody Mary mix in there because it's brunch.
Nice. That looks really good.
And now, while that is heating up, I am going to get my next components. So I've already poached my eggs. So it comes with a poached egg because this is a brunch item. And what is brunch? Lunch with breakfast folded in. So we've got the cheesy grits or the grits from breakfast. We've got the poached egg from breakfast. We've got the pulled pork, which is more of a lunch kind of style item, right? And what we're going to do is, so we've got those going, and that's quite heavy right here, right? We've got pork, grits, egg, so a little bit of heaviness there. So I made earlier a little herbal salad, and I'm going to just open this up.
And what is in your salad?
And that's exactly what I was going to show you guys. Watch this. So in my salad, I have radish, I have fennel, I have watercress, I have the fennel tongs, I have a little bit of radicchio and oak leaf for the color, so give me a broader color base. I've got mint and basil, and I've got lima beans. So this is going to give me a very fresh, crisp, and vibrant finish to the heaviness of the pork and the grits. This will liven it up and give it a little bit of brightness and crunch and flavor, and also kind of still playing into that lunch part. It's almost like getting a salad with your breakfast. So we're really going the whole brunch angle here.
So do you put any type of dressing on that,
Listen, you have me down pat here. I'm going to use a little bit of citrus because I want to sharpen up the grits. And most of the people out there watching know this, that citrus is very much like adding salt. So what I'm doing is I'm heightening my flavor.
Gotcha.
Okay, and I'm not going to use a lot because I'm going to use a small amount of salad. And then I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. Olive oil is very strong and can be very overpowering, especially for lighter salads. And we're just going to mix that up lightly. Technically just coating it lightly. And then I'll season it last minute with one of my favorite items from European imports. It's flake salt. And this is a sea salt that's in a natural flakiness. So if you look at it, if you can see in there, it's big chunks. So you're not going to over salt. You're just technically adding a couple of chunks in there for effect, to be quite honest. So
I've not seen that.
Yeah, and we also do it in smoked, and the smoked one is absolutely phenomenal. So let's look at our build. We're going to start with some pork. Now, as this is a brunch item, you're not going to. It's a lighter portion than usual. So you're only using maybe 2.5, 3 ounces of protein because we're going to be adding a poached egg. Now, one of my favorite things about poached eggs is, did I poach it correctly?
I don't do very well with poached eggs.
And a lot of people don't. So here's my poached egg.
Did you have any tricks on that?
Literally, I get my water to a rolling boil with some vinegar and a little bit of salt. And then I drop my egg in and I switch it down to low. And I use my spoon to bring my egg white over the top of my yolk. And I literally leave it in for less than 2 minutes.
Interesting.
And then I take it out. Now I take it out and then I put it in iced water. So then when I need it, I can just put it back in the boiling water for a quick couple of, maybe 20 seconds to refirm it, and then serve it. And anybody out there that's watching that's worked in large hotels, country clubs, and big breakfast places, we used to do cases of this in advance the day before, and it works really, really well.
Interesting.
So now what we need to do is make sure on our salad we're getting all the goodies.
You had a lot of them in there.
Yes, and that's part of it, is to make sure that you're building it with the items in here that we discussed, and everybody gets a little of them. Because it's if you don't kind of look at your salad this way, a lot of the goodies drop to the bottom, right? And then you're losing your whole look that you were looking for. So I'm just going to make sure I love the pepperiness of arugula.
And you said you had radish in there too?
This is the radish, the red radish there. I love that flavor also. It goes really, really great with pork because it's got that sharpness to it. Now, let's hope that I did the egg right.
Can you hold that up for us?
There we are.
See? Oh, wow. I'm hungry. That looks really good.
So if you look at what we've got going on today, you've got a really great Bloody Mary, which when I was moving around, I lost my deviled egg for a second. I've got a real good Bloody Mary. I've got a charcuterie board. And a cheesy pulled pork grits. So,
beautiful.
So really, there is a brunch treat pretty much designed for anybody.
That looks awesome.
And I'm just for you, before we get into our Q&A, I'm going to add a couple of slices of French bread, Sharon.
Okay, so we want to encourage everybody to click on the banner to find the recipes and the toolkit. A lot of these ideas and other ideas are also in this toolkit. So please make sure that you click on the banner to find these recipes and also visit the toolkit. And I do not see any questions. I think, unless we're going to give it a few minutes, but I don't see any questions right up on our chat. Please make sure if you do have any questions, go ahead and type that into our chat box. So while we're waiting to see if we have any questions from anybody, do you want to talk about some trends? What do you expect when customers are going to be coming back, and how are they going to get back on their feet? What do you see happening?
I think we're going to stay with the Titan menus for a little bit, just because nationally, getting inventory in and out throughout the country with the mass rush that we've had with the openings and stuff is going to be tough. I think getting our staff back in and retrained and rebooted is going to take some time, but we don't want to miss out on building margin and being profitable. Now, I can't necessarily say the name of the place, but it's very famous for coffee. They actually went up 50 cents on their coffee the day before yesterday. So that's,
wow.
Not coffee, let me correct myself. 50 cents probably on the coffee, but 50 cents on iced tea. And as we all know in operations, iced tea is a moneymaker. So what I see is that we're going to get a little better at execution and operations. I don't think we're going to see any changes in to-go, curbside, etc. I think that is here to stay. I think outside dining on the street, now that cities and governments gave us the reach and allowed us to be out there, I think long-term we're going to see more busy streets closed, just like you see a lot in Europe and London, etc., and opening more for al fresco dining. So that is definitely going to be great for smaller restaurants with less area that they can actually broaden their selling capabilities. It's really interesting. We don't really know, but the beauty of it is we're getting to a stage now with vaccination, et cetera, that we're probably not as scared of an automatic shutdown as we were before, because we went through a couple of them. So I think that we're going to start to see a little bit more creativity coming in the menus, but I think that's going to probably happen around September, October, once we kind of get ready. And I think because we really all missed the holiday season last year, because so many places you couldn't be with your families, I think eating out is going to be big. I don't see buffets coming back for quite a while, but I do see us staying with this shareables for small tables, and portable food is still going to be pretty big.
So we do have a couple questions. And one of them is for picky eaters. If a customer wanted the pork and grits without the salad, what would you recommend to garnish the dish with to liven it up?
That's a great question. So they definitely don't want the salad, right? So actually, wow, you got me stumped on that one for a second. I would probably go with a brighter sauce for it. I would probably go with an element of crunch, something with a bit of crunch to it. So whether it's a couple of fried pork rinds that would actually go really, really well with the pork, but it also gives you that visual and height, but it gives you the crunchiness as well. So you're adding, with the salad, we're adding a layer of crunch. So with the pork rinds, we'll do the same thing without having the salad.
And then another question we have is, what is the, on the charcuterie board, what is the cost? What would you charge for that? And what would be probably the average cost of what they would get it in for?
Well, that's a great question. I think a charcuterie board with smoked salmon and these kind of things are anywhere from $15 up.
And what kind of oysters were you using? Okay, per person. What kind of oysters were you using? You had two different ones that you had on there.
No, I actually just have one. I had the smoked mussels from Duck Trap.
Oh, mussels. Okay.
Yeah, the mussels. And then the oysters themselves, these are actually local Galveston Bay from an Appalachian bed. So really small bed, washed and HPP'd. So they are very, very safe.
And someone added in a comment more than a question. It says that here in Portland, we might add some Dungeness crab legs to this, and they're loving the idea.
That's exactly what if you think about it, when we started off at the very beginning, that's the whole idea. How do we localize it? Somebody might add in Maryland that you're definitely going to have crab. You're definitely probably going to have a crab cake or a croquette or something that's indigenous to the area. And you might not necessarily have the oysters. But I love the idea of doing the crab. Once again, the crab is a very strong perceived value to the customer. They're willing to pay for crab. So by adding crab to this, you've just banged up the price of the board. So I love that. That's a great comment.
And I think we have time for one last question is, do you have any recommendations for cooking the grits? Chicken broth, cream? What are your thoughts?
Great. So I only put cream in the grits at the very end. So I've already got them cooked. I will do it with either a chicken broth, I'll do it with a vegetable broth in a lot of cases because I want it to be more universal. I don't want to be caught into, I can't use it for my vegan or vegetarian items. And that's why I'm very careful. I actually put a little olive oil in mine, and I don't put butter, but that's just my preference. I do my mashed potatoes with olive oil. But I mean, putting the butter and the cream really for me is at the end, and that smooths it out. So I want to make sure I've cooked them correctly first, and then I can finish them off at the end.
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Chef, for being here and for showing us those three great ideas. I do want to remind everybody that you can download these recipes from the top menu bar and also look at the toolkit that is on the top menu bar. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to check out the Brunch Toolkit on our Sysco Foodie website as well. We appreciate your business and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.